Welcome to the number 18 in this deep dive series, bringing on the Miami Heat. The Heat who got bodied 4-0 by the eventual NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks, and after a forgettable year, I'm willing to bet that the Heat's issue last season was less so talent related or regression or whatever you want to call it, and more so the overall attrition of playing in the finals, having a very short turnaround, than having a compacted schedule. The Heat had the talent, the overall quick turnaround and lack of time off hurt the guys both mentally and physically. Initially, I was in the camp, oh, relax, they're getting paid millions of dollars to go out there and just dribble a basketball. But seeing how the injuries stacked and completely devastated the entirety of the last season's playoffs, I'm basically saying, congratulations Bucks, but I'm calling the last two seasons asterisk championships. But the Heat are superbly fun. They're the only team that I can think of outside of maybe the Spurs to have a complete identity, to have a full team mentality that is greater than any one player. The NBA these days is such a star-driven league. Cater your talents to your superstars. Give Ben Simmons whatever he wants. The Heat are one of the few teams that say, no, we have a culture here. You have to match us. But last year they did come in at 40-32, 6th in the Eastern Conference, 9th in the overall 2020 end-of-year power rankings, and then got swept in a really ugly fashion, putting a period end to the forgettable season known as the 2020 season. But let's talk about their offseason moves, where the first thing that they brought in was rest overall. The team struggled with injuries. A lot of their players missed so many games, and they just needed that time off. Hopefully this offseason is about a month longer, and the time off that they received is going to be beneficial. They did lose Kendrick Nunn, their backup point guard, and Precious Achiuwa and Goran Dragic in the Kyle Lowry sign and trade. And while losing Achiuwa was kind of a big deal for the Raptors, they got a legit center. For the Heat, it's almost a blip for them. Dwayne Dedmon played so well that they could just go out and lose another prospect and it wouldn't be a big deal. Then they go out and find another stud in Omer Yurtseven. Goran Dragic is kind of a big loss, but at the same time not a big deal because they did bring in Kyle Lowry. They also lost Andre Iguodala, who's just a good player wherever he goes. Now the Heat were absolutely ridiculous in signing him to $15 million a year. That said, he was perfectly fine for them and he's going back to Golden State. So for their additions, of course, rest, but then they have Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker. Of course, they go out and find guys that just fit into this Heat culture, this Heat identity perfectly, as well as Markieff Morris, a little less so, but he's not going to be playing starter minutes. Let's talk about this point guard ranking where they're going to come in at 11th with Kyle Lowry leading the way. Now, I have no idea how Kyle Lowry does it. The dude is barely taller than I am, yet he has no fear of driving in the paint, gets off a clean three-point shot off the dribble, and takes charges versus the fucking bowling balls of muscle known as NBA players. He has incredible leadership, was great for Toronto. He kept Kawhi Leonard from blowing up the team. You look at San Antonio, where he alienated future Hall of Famers Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, or even the Clippers now, where he's alienated future Hall of Famer Rajon Rondo, Montrezl Harrell, and blew up the team, might be blowing it up again. And you at the very least have to give some credit to Kyle Lowry and Nick Nurse. But as for Kyle Lowry, he's exactly what you want from your point guard. He's a smart defender, a good initiator of the offense, and he's so good at drawing fouls. Just a competitive dude. He's a big, strong guard, bulky at 6 feet, but almost 200 pounds, and he just gives it to you every single possession. He's also a much better passer than I realized. All my memories of Kyle Lowry are him making off-dribble threes, but he has good vision and sets his teammates up well while still giving you 17 points a night, as evidenced by that 10 assists in the first half preseason game. From the outside looking in, he's the ultimate locker room guy, but he's just not going to be a tremendous needle mover. He is overpaid as well, too. Right now, it's not a big deal. Kyle Lowry's going to play well for the Heat, but projecting down the road, age 36 and 37, is he going to be able to maintain this high level of consistent play, stay out of injury trouble? I doubt it. His biggest thing he offers to the team, other than facilitation or leadership though, is that he's going to be able to pick up the slack when Bam and Jimmy are having off nights. And as we saw last season, those two are definitely prone to having poor jump shooting nights. And unlike Russell Westbrook, the other big point guard move, Kyle Lowry can fit alongside the Heat culture perfectly. He's exactly what they need to this puzzle. Moving on to Tyler Hero and Gabe Vincent. They're really lacking in point guard depth after Lowry. I don't expect Gabe Vincent to be all that good, and Tyler Hero will get the majority of backup point guard minutes for the second unit, which is not a great sign. He's a scorer. But as for Tyler Hero, he looks very impressive so far, scoring in bunches in the preseason. Of course, Heat fans need to settle down. This is only the preseason and a few games at that. And while he did regress by the tiniest of margins this past season, the issue was more so that he didn't continue that step up that he showed in the playoffs. People are pointing to all these things like, oh my God, Tyler Hero did these commercials. He's trying to be a celebrity more than a ball player. Why doesn't he just focus on basketball? And I push back against that. Any rookie who was a breakout star like he was should capitalize on that. Basketball is a business. Tyler Hero's not a businessman, he's a businessman. Now, what I don't understand is why Heat Nation and basically the entire sports world keeps trying to put him in the point guard role. He can play point if necessary, break glass in case of emergency, but he's a scorer's first mentality and can get out of control trying to facilitate the offense. He has an average handle at best. He only dribbles with his right arm and doesn't get the ball stripped too often. His biggest problem this season is going to be the square peg into a round hole problem. The Heat need a secondary ball handler when Kyle goes out, and Tyler Hero is going to be asked to do that instead of focus on his scoring, which is his strength. He's a good three-point shooter, not evidenced by his 36% last season, but he can still get buckets. And he's a really solid mid-range scorer as well, which we saw was so important in the playoffs. Now, the question for Tyler Hero is going to be, is he just another bubble star like TJ Warren, or is he the real deal? Last season, he also dealt with some injuries, so a lot of people are looking forward to this season. Breakout year alert, most improved player possibilities, sixth man of the year possibilities. Tyler Hero could do that depending on how he progresses and how he's worked in this offseason to improve his game. Moving on to the final point guard 3, Gabe Vincent. He's kind of a 3-and-D Patrick Beverley type of point guard. He's only played the one preseason game and sat out summer league. He's had this groin injury or whatever, so it's kind of hard to find real tape on him for this season. He shot 37% from 3 in college, 40% on 10 attempts per game in the G League, and yet last year he was awful, having a 31% from the 3-point line, 38% from the field. The thing is, he's the only true quote-unquote point guard backup that they have, so I think he's going to get a lot of minutes and really not be impressive. He did ball out in the Olympics, though, for whatever that's worth. Moving on to the wing positions, and I saw some rotations where Duncan Robinson plays the 3, Jimmy Butler plays the 2, whatever. As for Duncan Robinson, I'm going to have him coming in at 21st in the shooting guard position. Now, in a vacuum, Duncan Robinson isn't worth his 5-year, $90 million deal whatsoever. If you look at a team that's deprived of talent and you have no Jimmy Butler, no Bam Adebayo, no Kyle Lowry, this deal would look awful. But you see the talent that's on the roster. You see that it was done through bird rights and they went over the cap to include and keep Duncan Robinson. And the Heat are trying to compete for a championship. That's why this was made. It's not truly awful at $18 million a year compared to some other players. Just the longevity and the total value of the contract looks like it's a lot. As for Duncan, he's able to catch and shoot the 3 with the best of them. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter, can shoot while catch and shooting or shoot off the dribble, able to go to his left or his right. He's just a true 3-point specialist, and he vastly improved his defense in the last season. Went from unplayable to borderline average. He's fouling much less through stretches of the season last year, which is very important for shooters so that they can maintain their rhythm when they're having an on night. He also makes really smart help defense rotations from all the film that he watched, and he actually led the team last year in taking charges, almost doubled up their second place player, Jimmy Butler, so it's really nice to see Duncan's improved defense. His really good off-ball movement generated 1.61 points per cut, tied 14th in the league last year. He gave you 40% from 3 shooting, gives you league average defense. What else could the Miami Heat ask for? As for the small forward position where they're going to come in at 3rd, Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets. The only issue, the only bad thing I have to say about Jimmy is that he completely forgot how to shoot when he came to Miami. Now, I remembered that he can get a 3 in the bubble. That's about it. As for Jimmy, everyone loves Jimmy. I don't think anybody can voice a single bad thing about him. He got you 2 in the bubble finals while they were the overwhelming underdogs. Hell, even Allen Iverson was only able to get you 1. He's just a dog coming from the 30th overall selection, a defensive specialist who isn't going to do much, to an all-around player and facilitator. Jimmy Butler is the ultimate NBA success story. He has a no-quit attitude, a monster mentality, something, closest thing to Michael Jordan we have in today's NBA this side of Kobe. He's an incredible leader, a good scorer, and despite his horrible 24% from 3 last year, he had a career high in assists, had a career high in true shooting because he stopped shooting the ball. But he led the league in steals at 2.1. He's an annual Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and when he's needed to be, a lockdown defender. Now, he got to the free throw line a lot last year to make up for that unreliable jumper. Yet to be seen if that'll continue, but that finals run in the bubble left me speechless. It made me a huge fan of Jimmy Butler just seeing him lay it all out on the court, something we don't always see NBA players do. Now, I'm just hoping the time off helped him to remember how to shoot the ball because that is pivotal to the Miami Heat's success. Moving on to the power forward ranking where they're going to come in at 25th with PJ Tucker, the ultimate role player. He's a guy who will guard KD as well as anyone can and then go hide in the corner with zero shame. And a lot like the Kyle Lowry pickup, PJ Tucker is a great role player, great addition to this team, and he fits perfectly into the culture. Just how much is his age going to affect his play? He's going to be 37 this season. Now, don't let the stats fool you. 3.7 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 1.2 assists, 33% shooting from three. If nobody's seen PJ Tucker play, he's the real deal. He has value. See the Milwaukee Bucks last season. He'll guard the other team's best player night in and night out. He can switch 1 through 5. Now, he did only make 35% of his corner threes, 33.6% total last year. But hey, that's still good enough to stretch the floor while some people still refuse to shoot the three. Now they will be lacking in size. Bam Adebayo is only 6'9", PJ Tucker is 6'5", Duncan Robinson and Jimmy Butler is 6'7", and Kyle Lowry is 6 feet tall. But there's still going to be a formidable defense that'll make it tough for any team to score on them. Also, PJ Tucker has the most animated face in the entire NBA. Every single team he plays for loves him because he looks like a clickbait YouTube thumbnail. Moving on to the center position where they're going to come in at 11th with gold medal winner Bam Adebayo. Now, initially in his career, he was a great energy guy, but he turned himself into a really good role man, averaged 4.7 screen assists per game, which tied him for 5th last year. He's also turned himself into a top-tier defender in the 72nd percentile in defending isolation, 5th best last year. And he was so good at defending last year that his rebound numbers fell from 10.2 to 9.0 because he was guarding the perimeter more. Now, he can also be a point center for a few positions. He has ball handling and passing skills. Just his mid and deep shooting really stopped progressing and regressed a little bit. Now, Bam Adebayo will always be limited by his 6'9" frame. Nobody can deny that. He's a natural 4. Just welcome to today's NBA. You're a tweener now. And while his ball handling and playmaking skills are helpful to the team, we need that shooting. We need that mid-range and three-point shot to go up. Today's NBA is all about shooting, and shooting. And while he did shoot more mid-range jumpers in the regular season than the playoffs, he made 41% of his long twos, placing him in the 73rd percentile. It absolutely cratered against the Bucks. He shot 2 of 10. A little bit like Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo needs to get better with his jump shot. It won't look impressive on the stat sheet. His numbers will probably go down. His efficiency won't be as high, but it will greatly benefit the Miami Heat roster as a whole. Moving on to the backup center position, Dwayne Dedmon, who came in as just a random pickup and really embodied the Heat culture. He is a tough dude. He competes every possession, goes after rebounds, and the Heat immediately rewarded him with a contract when he was probably on his way out of the league. He was first on the team in second chance points per possession last year, 10.4, and had a 24% offensive rebounding percentage. He will compete. He's great rim protection, has long arms, and it's tough to fully rate him because he only played 13 games a minute, so his per 36 blocks and steals numbers looks very good, but he's just the perfect big man for this team. The only thing he doesn't do is shoot the three. Moving on to someone who does, Omar Yurtseven, and of course, the Miami Heat go out and find some guy on the second-year undrafted players heap, and he turns out to be a 7-foot stud. Gave them 20 points and almost 10 rebounds with 2.7 blocks a game in the summer league. What? He played so well in the summer league that the Heat immediately threw money at him so he couldn't get away. He's high-quality rim protection, has some pick-and-pop three-point potential, something this team is really missing at the 5, and he's incredibly nimble for a 7-footer. On the floor, you'd think he was just another wing while he moves around, but he's actually 7 feet tall. Moving on to the bench, where they're going to come in at 24th, and the bench is where the biggest question marks of this Heat team arise. If one of the star players goes down, they don't really have the depth at a lot of positions to make up for it. But they do have Markieff Morris, not Marcus Morris, who's killing it out in LA, but the lesser of the two, Markieff, and he looked a little fat coming into this season. In the preseason, at least, I thought he was James Johnson out there. And can he ever make a three-pointer, though? Good Lord, he shot really awful from the three last year at 31.1%, but he is still a good physical defender. It's just kind of funny seeing his brother kill it out in the Clippers. He found a home, is shooting like 48% from three, and is a legit starter for a championship team, while Markieff went through all the same trials and tribulations and just never reached his peak. Someone who is starting to peak is Max Strus, and he can bully 20-year-olds all he wants in the summer league. Once he gets to the regular season where offensive sets and defensive rotations are, the competition isn't teenagers, his play drops precipitously. He got you 21 a game in the summer league, and he's still been impressive in the preseason. It's just a wonder, is he actually going to break the rotation and keep making his shots offensively? He's going to be a quick trigger sharpshooter if he does get minutes. He's a little bit like Duncan Robinson, a three-point specialist. He doesn't do very well when he puts the ball on the floor. His clear strength is catch and shoot with the occasional pump fake and drive. He's going to need to learn from Duncan, though, how to be a serviceable defender so he can earn minutes. Fans are really high on him, Again, it's that time of year. Ben Simmons can shoot the three. Rajon Rondo is a specialist, and Max Strus is going to kill it in the league, and then he fails in the regular season. The question is, as it always will be, can Max Strus be a league average defender and continue to knock down shots? If so, he'll be able to crack this rotation. Someone who probably isn't going to crack the rotation, no offense, is KZ Okpala. He hasn't developed despite all the work and the heralded Heat culture, how they're able to bring anybody and everybody along. He never got his offense. He's an okay defender. He can pass and play make a bit and has real defensive tenacity that he showed in the Olympics. He just has really poor shooting in these limited stretches. 37% from the field, 24% from three, 53% from the free throw line. That's just not going to cut it. Now, of course, it's been very tough on these younger players and rookies to develop. There's been little to no G League, Summer League, preseason. Everything is COVID, health and safety protocols. And KZ Okpala is still a really good athlete and on-ball defender. They did give up 3 second-round picks to take him. So while this is the final year of his contract, I expect the Heat to take a real hard look at KZ, see if he has anything to offer to this team before letting him walk for nothing in free agency this upcoming season. Also, here is Udonis Haslem. He's still in the league. Just sign him to a damn assistant coach spot already and free up a roster spot for some young talent. And lastly is Victor Oladipo. Now, what can Victor get you when he comes back? Life's been brutal on Victor since he left Indianapolis. He had a Dennis Schroeder-esque turn down big money and bet on himself and fail issue. He turned down a 4-year, $112 million contract because he wanted a max deal. The Pacers said go fuck and sent him to Houston for Karis LeVert. Houston said we want you, but we're worried about your injury, so they offered a 2-year, $45 million contract. Oladipo said, I still want a max. Houston said go fuck and sent him to Miami for Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and like a first-round pick swap or something. Then Victor went out and immediately got hurt and is now back in Miami on the veterans minimum, a little over $2 million a year. So while we're all laughing at Dennis Schroeder, don't forget that Victor Oladipo has turned down a combined $157 million and accepted less than Schroeder's $5 million deal. That said, we'll see what he can offer to this Miami Heat team when he comes back from that injury. He could be a huge part of their success to the playoffs. He was such a monster for the Pacers, the most improved player, a freak athlete in success stories, someone who actually figured out how to play basketball, how to shoot, how to be a slasher, how to be a clear-cut number one option for a team. He's one of those players people compare prospects to. Oh, this guy's a lot like Victor Oladipo. He just needs to learn how to shoot the basketball and dribble the basketball, but he's a really good athlete. So we'll see what Victor's able to bring you if and when he comes back in this season. On some exhibition contracts for the preseason is Micah Potter. He's a big who can shoot the three. That might be enough to earn him a spot. I don't really see much more with him. Javonte Smart is here from LSU. He was a little bit like Herb Jones was for Alabama, just kind of a do-it-all energy guy for the team. He ran the point, he would run the center, he dove for loose balls, he could score from deep. Just whatever coach needed him to do, Javonte would go out and do. And I liked him. I think he'll get a good look at the final roster spot. I thought they were going to run it back another year at LSU. I didn't have any notes on him because he wasn't a high-tier prospect. He's just a good college player. He was really impressive at his junior year at LSU. Gave you 16 points, 3.7 rebounds, 4 assists, and shot 40% from the three-point line, 85% from the free throw line. He's just not a very good athlete and a high-tier player. Maybe he'll be able to crack the rotation. Drew Smith is here. He's been largely unimpressive so far. I don't really expect him to do much. And DJ Stewart, another player who's been largely unimpressive as well. So there's one more roster spot available. I really expect Javonte Smart to pick it up. On the two-way contracts is Caleb Martin, who became unplayable at times for the Hornets, hence why he's not there playing with his brother, his twin brother, which makes it so hard to see which Caleb Cody Martin is which. He played okay for stretches last year and then got hurt. He's just a really good energy athletics guy right now. We'll see if he cracks the rotation. He was in and out in the Hornets lineup nonstop. And a guy that a lot of fans are in on, Marcus Garrett from Florida. I was not a fan of him. He's supposed to be a primary ball handler, but he only had 3.7 assists per game and averaged 1.9 turnovers, less than a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. He's supposed to be a senior, but he made rookie mistakes on both ends of the floor. He can't even score that well, 46% from the field, 35% from the three-point line. He's not very athletic. He has good size on him at 6'5", but lacks foot speed to keep up with other point guards. He's a point guard who can't play point guard well, lacks the physical tools, and was older than everyone else. So I had an undrafted grade on him. I was really unimpressed with him, but the fact that the Miami Heat are so desperate for point guards, I think the Heat are going to give him a really good look until they make a trade for another backup guard. Moving on to the coaching culture ranking, where the Heat are one of the top dogs, coming in at second. Head coach Eric Spoelstra President Pat Riley. Some guy named Andy is getting paid to be the GM, but Pat Riley does everything, and Mickey Arison seems to be a good owner. I love everything about the Heat culture in theory. In practice, having a lot of good players that fit into your identity could work. I just don't think Jimmy Butler and a group of Rough Riders are really enough to beat a healthy Nets squad. In the NBA, only one thing wins championships, and that's elite, generational superstars teaming up. There are breakthrough years every now and then, but even last year's quote-unquote breakthrough year, it was a 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo first ballot Hall of Famer. Then before him was the LeBron Lakers, then like 5 years of Warriors Cavaliers, then 4 years of the Heat versus anyone, the Spurs with their 4 Hall of Famers, the Baby Thunder with their 3 Hall of Famers, then the Kobe Powell Lakers, then the Big 3 Celtics, then the Spurs again. The only real outliers in the last, 15 years was this year's Giannis and Dirk Nowitzki, who is still a first ballot Hall of Famer. The Heat have a bunch of good players and one who's almost on the tier of superstar, but just not quite. When you put LeBron versus Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, one of those 3 is not like the other. But of course, I love this coach and culture ranking, which is why they're coming in so high. Eric Spoelstra is a great coach, up there with Greg Popovich, Ty Lue, Quinn Snyder, just one of the great minds this game has. And Pat Riley has shown he'll do whatever it takes to win a championship. Moving on to this upcoming season where they're projected to win 46.5 games, have 20-1 championship odds, but the season result is probably going to be a first or second round exit. The issue right now is that 2/5 of their team, or 40% of their starting lineup, can't shoot the 3 well, and this destroys the floor spacing in the modern NBA. Can Jimmy Buckets remember how to shoot and return to an all-NBA player? Can Bam Adebayo learn how to shoot and turn into an all-star again? Can Tyler Hero step up and be a 3rd or 4th option? Can the Heat get some help from another spot? Victor Oladipo, Markieff Morris, Kizzy Okpola, Omar Yurtseven. Can one of those guys turn themselves into a legit role player? The Heat's ceiling this year feels a lot like the Bulls, a competitive second-round exit that maybe they could get to the Eastern Conference Finals if a few things break their way. They finally have shooters, but now they're missing ball handlers. They're missing size. If they have any injuries to the starting lineup, the Heat are going to struggle. Kyle Lowry goes out, you have issues. Even PJ Tucker goes out, you have issues. Obviously, Jimmy Butler, that's going to be a problem. The 2 that they can actually afford to lose right now is Bam Adebayo because they have Yurtseven and Dwayne Dedmon, and then Duncan Robinson because they have Tyler Hero and Max Strus. But then behind them, the rotation is going to be next to nothing. And I love the addition of Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker to this team. I just don't know if that puts them over the top, makes them better than the Lakers or the Nets. That said, I really appreciate the move as a fan of the NBA. The Heat made the very best move available this offseason to win a championship in getting Kyle Lowry. They're so committed to the win now move that a 38-year-old Kyle Lowry and a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler will be earning $75 million in a few years. But they're going to be a top 10 defense, no doubt, this upcoming season. Their pace of play has to get better because it was 97.09, second worst last year to the snail-like New York Knicks, and they were 25th in points per game last year at only 108.1, which is definitely going to go up with the addition of Kyle Lowry if he stays healthy. So what is this season going to be? Who knows? But the Heat finally have a full offseason to get healthy, to continue to develop, and they brought in a bunch of talent that's really going to help them compete in the playoffs at the very least, overcome that, we're going to get swept again by the Bucks. And that's going to do it for this number 8 seeded Miami Heat. Let me know what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll catch you in the next one where we unveil the team number 7.